The grand arena of Kethver could hold 500,000 beings, and today, every seat was filled. Creatures from 1,000 worlds pressed together in the massive stone structure, all waiting to see the same thing. They wanted to watch a queen die. Queen Zirith of the Velkari Empire stood in the center of the arena floor. Her crimson scales, once polished to a mirror shine by her servants, were now dull and scratched. Her crown was gone. Her royal robes had been replaced with the plain gray clothes of the accused. But she still stood straight, her head held high, refusing to show weakness even now. Above her, floating in the air, sat the 7 judges of the Galactic Council. Each one represented a different region of known space. Each one looked down at her with cold eyes. They had already made up their minds. Everyone knew it. Queen Zirith, the head judge said. His voice echoed through the arena. You stand accused of war crimes. The destruction of mining colony 7 Theta. 15,000 civilians dead. Do you have anything to say before we deliver our verdict? Zirith's tail moved slightly, the only sign of her emotion. I have said all I will say. The colony was not what it appeared to be. They fired on my ships first. I defended my people. A wave of angry sounds rolled through the crowd. Hisses, clicks, roars, and other noises that meant the same thing in every language. They did not believe her. The prosecutor, a tall being with too many arms, stepped forward. The evidence is clear, he said. He raised one hand and holographic images appeared in the air. Ships exploding. Buildings burning. Bodies floating in space. The Queen's fleet arrived without warning. They fired on a peaceful mining colony. They killed everyone there. Men, women, children. All dead. More images appeared. Messages from Zirith's own ship, giving the order to fire. Sensor logs showing the colony had no weapons. Medical records of the dead, proving they were civilians. The evidence was perfect. Too perfect. Zirith watched the images and felt something cold settle in her chest. She had seen this evidence before, during the long months of her trial. Every time she saw it, she noticed something wrong, something that did not fit. But she could never explain what bothered her. The data was clear. The facts were there. How could she argue against facts? Your own counsel has abandoned you, the prosecutor continued. Your own advisors have testified against you. They say you ordered this attack in anger. They say you have become unstable, dangerous. They say the Velkari Empire will be safer without you. That hurt more than anything else. Zirith knew some of her counsel had turned against her. She had seen their faces when they gave their testimony. People she had trusted for years, now calling her a monster. Some of them probably believed it, others. She suspected they had their own reasons for wanting her gone. The head judge spoke again. Does anyone speak in defense of the accused? Silence filled the arena. Not one voice rose to help her. Her own people had sent no one. The other empires watched with satisfaction. Even the few who might have pitied her stayed quiet. Speaking for her would mean going against the Galactic Council, and no one wanted that. Zirith closed her eyes for just a moment. She thought of her empire, the world she had ruled, the people she had tried to protect. She thought of the secret she carried, the real reason she had been targeted. The peace talks she had been pursuing in secret, trying to end the wars that had killed so many. Her enemies within her own court had discovered her plans and decided she was too dangerous to live. But she would not speak of it now. If she told them about the peace talks, it would destroy any chance of them succeeding. Other leaders would take her place, continue the work. That was more important than her life. I see, the head judge said. Then we will proceed to wait. The voice was quiet, but somehow it carried through the entire arena. Everyone turned to look. In the observation gallery, a figure was standing. The cameras focused on him, and his image appeared on the large screens around the arena. He was human. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Humans were new to the galactic community, barely 50 years since first contact. They were small, weak, short-lived. Most species barely noticed them. What was a human doing here? Security guards moved toward him immediately. "Sit down," one of them said. "You have no standing here." The human did not sit. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and nervous eyes. He wore the simple uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. His hand shook slightly, but his voice was steady. "I invoke the right of historical testimony," he said. The arena went completely silent. Even the judges looked surprised. The head judge touched his console, checking something. His expression changed. "The right of historical testimony," he said slowly, "has not been invoked in over 800 years. It allows a historian to present context for judgment. But you are human. Your species has barely been traveling the stars for half a century. What historical testimony could you possibly offer?" The human took a breath. 10 minutes, he said. "That's all the right requires. Give me 10 minutes, and I'll show you what you're missing." The judges looked at each other. The crowd was buzzing now, thousands of conversations happening at once. The prosecutor looked angry. Finally, the head judge nodded. "Very well. You have 10 minutes, human. But if you waste the council's time, there will be consequences for your entire species." The human started walking down toward the arena floor. Security let him pass, though they watched him carefully. Xerath watched him too, confused and curious. She had never met this human before. Why would he risk everything to speak for her? As he reached the arena floor and looked up at her, their eyes met. And something in his expression told her that he knew. Somehow, this strange little human from a backwards planet had seen something that everyone else had missed. The question was, would anyone listen to him? Dr. Marcus Webb had not planned to do this. When he woke up that morning in his small hotel room on Kethver, he thought he would just observe the trial, take notes, and return to Earth. That was his job. Watch, learn, record. He was a xenorchaeologist, someone who studied dead alien civilizations. He was not a lawyer. He was not a hero. But then he had watched the evidence being presented, and something nagged at him. Something wrong. Something familiar. Now he stood on the arena floor, looking up at 7 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Behind him, he could hear the crowd murmuring. He could feel their eyes on him. Somewhere in the observation gallery, the other humans from Earth's delegation were probably panicking. Marcus had just put Earth's entire reputation at risk. His hands were sweating. His heart was pounding. But he had to do this. "State your name and credentials," the head judge said. "Dr. Marcus Webb," he said, forcing his voice to stay calm. "Xenorchaeologist with Earth's diplomatic service. I've spent 15 years studying extinct civilizations across the galaxy. The Anthony Collective, the Vorum Dynasty, the Crystalline Courts. I specialize in understanding why civilizations fall." "And what does that have to do with this trial?" the prosecutor demanded. He looked annoyed and a little nervous. "Good." Marcus walked to the center of the arena floor. "I study how civilizations die," he said. "And one thing I've learned is that they rarely die the way the history books say they did. The official story is usually neat and clean. The truth is always messier." He turned to the judges. "May I have access to the evidence files?" "All of them, including the raw data?" The head judge hesitated, then nodded. A holographic console appeared in front of Marcus. He touched it with shaking fingers, and the data began to flow. Queen Xerath watched him with those sharp reptilian eyes. Up close, he could see how exhausted she was. How alone. He had read about the Valkyrie people, about their strict codes of honor. She would die before she begged. But Marcus could see something else in her expression now. A tiny spark of hope that she was trying very hard to hide. "Your 10 minutes have started, Dr. Webb," the head judge said. Marcus began pulling up files. Messages, sensor logs, timestamps. The evidence against the Queen was overwhelming. Any court in the galaxy would convict based on this data. Any court except one that had seen what Marcus had seen. "I've studied 12 different civilizations that destroyed themselves," Marcus said as he worked. "And you know what they all had in common? They trusted their technology too much. They stopped questioning. They assumed that data could not lie." He pulled up a message log and expanded it. "This message here shows Queen Zereth giving the order to fire on the colony. The timestamp says it was sent at 1432 Galactic Standard Time. According to the sensor logs, the colony had not yet fired on her ships." "Exactly," the prosecutor said triumphantly. "She fired first. Unprovoked attack. But look at this," Marcus said. He pulled up another file. "This is the relativity calculation for FTL communication. When Queen Zereth's ship sent that message, it was traveling at 0.7 light speed. The colony was stationary. Do you see the problem?" The judges leaned forward. One of them touched her own console, checking Marcus's work. "Time dilation," Marcus continued. "The message timestamp is based on the ship's internal clock. But because of relativity, time was moving slower on that ship compared to the colony. When you adjust for the time difference," he ran the calculation and displayed it for everyone to see. "The colony fired first, 17 minutes before the Queen gave the order to return fire." A shocked murmur ran through the crowd. The prosecutor's face changed color. That's not possible," the prosecutor said. "The evidence system automatically adjusts for relativity." "Does it?" Marcus asked. "Or does it assume that all parties are using synchronized galactic standard time? What if someone deliberately set the clocks wrong? What if someone wanted the timestamps to look like the Queen attacked first?" He pulled up more files, working faster now. His nervousness was gone, replaced by the thrill of discovery. This was what he did best. Finding patterns. Seeing what others missed. "Look at the sensor logs from the colony," he said. "They show no weapons, right?" "Just mining equipment." "Correct," the judge said. "Now look at the debris field after the battle." Marcus zoomed in on an image. "See that? That's not mining equipment. That's a military-grade shield generator. And that over there? That's part of a plasma cannon. This colony had weapons. They were just hidden." He pulled up another image. "And look at these medical records. The prosecutor says 15,000 civilians died. But look at the age distribution. 90% of the population was between 20 and 40 years old. No children. No elderly. Does that sound like a civilian colony to you?" The crowd was getting louder now. Arguments broke out in different languages. The judges were conferring with each other in urgent whispers. Queen Zereth was staring at Marcus with an expression he could not quite read. Surprise, gratitude, and something else. Something that looked like recognition. "This is conspiracy theory," the prosecutor said, but his voice was less confident now. "Wild speculation based on patterns," Marcus interrupted. "Humans are very good at patterns. We evolved on a planet where everything wanted to kill us. We learned to see danger before it arrived. We learned not to trust what looked safe." He turned to face the entire arena. "I've seen this pattern before. In the Anthony Collective, a democratic government was overthrown by false evidence. In the Vorum dynasty, a reformer queen was assassinated by her own court when she tried to make peace with their enemies. The method is always the same. Create evidence that looks perfect. Too perfect. Present it to people who trust their systems. make the truth look like a lie. Are you suggesting, the head judge said slowly, that this entire trial is based on fabricated evidence? Not fabricated, Marcus said. Manipulated. The events happened. People died. But the context was changed. The timeline was altered. Just enough to tell a different story. He looked at Queen Zeroth. I think someone in your court wanted you removed. I think they knew about something you were doing, something that threatened them. And I think they used this tragedy to destroy you. For the first time, Zeroth spoke. Her voice was quiet but clear. How did you know? Marcus smiled sadly. Because humans have done the same thing to each other for thousands of years. We know every trick in the book. We wrote the book. The head judge held up his hand for silence. Dr. Webb, you have presented interesting theories. But theories are not proof. Can you prove this conspiracy exists? Marcus felt his heart sink. This was the problem. He had intuition. He had patterns. But he did not have hard evidence. No, he admitted. Not yet. But I'm asking you to investigate. Really investigate. Don't just trust the data. Question it. Dig deeper. The prosecutor stood up. This is a waste of time. The human has no proof, only wild. I have proof. Everyone turned. Queen Zeroth had stepped forward. She reached into her clothes and pulled out a small data chip. I have been carrying this since my arrest, she said. I did not present it before because I thought it would not matter. But if there is even a chance, she held it out to Marcus. This contains records of secret peace negotiations I was conducting. Negotiations my own war council opposed. They called me weak. They said I was betraying our warrior traditions. Marcus took the chip with trembling hands. He inserted it into the console. If you investigate those names, Zeroth said, pointing to the list that appeared, you will find they are the same ones who testified against me. The same ones who provided evidence to the prosecutor. The arena exploded into chaos. The judges were shouting orders. Security was moving. The prosecutor was backing away, his face pale, and Marcus stood in the center of it all, a simple human scholar who had just changed everything. The Galactic Council called a recess. It took 6 hours for their investigators to verify what Marcus and Queen Zeroth had presented. 6 hours during which Marcus sat in a small waiting room, drinking terrible alien coffee and trying not to think about what would happen if he was wrong. But he was not wrong. He knew it in his bones that a young Valkyrie guard brought him food. She did not speak, but she bowed to him before she left. That was new. Humans did not usually get bows from anyone. When the council reconvened, the arena was even more packed than before. Word had spread across Kethver, across the entire galaxy, probably. The human who challenged the council. The human who defended an alien queen. Marcus had checked his messages during the break. Earth's government had sent him 17 urgent calls. He had ignored them all. The head judge looked tired. We have completed our preliminary investigation, he said. Dr. Webb's suspicions were correct. The evidence against Queen Zeroth was technically accurate but deliberately misleading. The timestamps were manipulated. The colony's military nature was concealed. And we have found communication between members of the Valkyrie War Council and parties involved in this prosecution. A roar went up from the crowd. Half were angry at the deception. The other half were angry that a human had exposed it. However, the judge continued, raising his voice. We must still address the central question. 15,000 beings died at that colony. Even if they were military personnel in disguise, even if they fired first, the response was disproportionate. Queen Zeroth's forces destroyed the entire colony. No survivors. No prisoners. This level of destruction requires explanation. All eyes turned to Zeroth. She stood straight, her scales gleaming in the arena lights. Someone had returned her crown during the recess. She looked like a queen again. "I will explain," she said. "But first, I want Dr. Webb to remain here. He has earned the right to hear this." Marcus nodded. He was not going anywhere. Zeroth took a breath. "For 3 years, I have been secretly negotiating with the Kresh Consortium. Our people have been at war for 2 generations. Millions have died on both sides. I wanted to end it." The arena erupted in shocked sounds. The Kresh Consortium was the Volcari's oldest enemy. The idea of making peace with them was unthinkable to many. "My war council opposed this," Zeroth continued. "They believe in the old ways. Eternal conflict. Honor through combat. They saw my peace talks as weakness. Betrayal." Her tail lashed once. "They were right to fear my plans. I intended to sign a treaty that would end the war and integrate our economies. It would have meant the end of the military class's power." Marcus was nodding. This fit the pattern perfectly. Powerful people fighting to keep their power. Tale as old as time. The mining colony, Zeroth said, was not just a military base. It was a staging ground for a false flag operation. My own war council, working with Kresh hardliners, who also opposed peace, planned to use that base to attack Valkyrie civilian targets. They would blame the Kresh government, restart the war with new fury, and destroy any chance of peace. She pulled up holographic images. I discovered this plot through my intelligence network. I had proof that the colony was preparing to launch the attack within days. I tried to contact the Galactic Council, but my messages were blocked. I tried to contact the Kresh Peace faction, but they could not respond in time. So I made a choice. The images showed weapon stockpiles, attack plans, civilian targets marked for destruction. I destroyed the colony before they could launch their attack, Zeroth said. I killed 15,000 beings to save millions. It was murder. It was also necessary. The arena was silent. This was the kind of moral question that had no easy answer. The prosecutor, now looking very small, spoke up. "Why did you not present this evidence before?" "Because I'm not the only one involved in the peace talks," Zeroth said. "There are Kresh leaders who support peace. Moderate factions on both sides. If I had exposed the conspiracy, the hardliners would have hunted down everyone involved. They would have killed the peace movement before it could succeed." She looked at Marcus. "I was prepared to die for this. I thought my sacrifice would allow others to continue the work. But then this human stood up and refused to let me face this alone." Marcus felt his face getting hot. He was not used to this kind of attention. Dr. Webb saw what my own people could not see, Zeroth said, or what they chose not to see. He questioned the unquestionable. He doubted the certain. In doing so, he's given me a chance to finish what I started. The head judge was reading something on his console. His expression was grave. "We have confirmed the conspiracy. 14 members of the Valkyrie War Council, 3 Kresh military commanders, and 2 of our own prosecutors were involved. They have been arrested. More chaos in the crowd. This was the biggest scandal in Galactic Council history. But the question remains," the judge said. "Queen Zeroth, you killed 15,000 beings without trial, without due process. You became judge and executioner. How can we allow this?" Marcus surprised himself by speaking up. "May I address that, Your Honor?" The judge looked at him. "You have already done more than enough, Dr. Webb." "Just 1 more minute," Marcus said. "Please." The judge sighed but nodded. Marcus walked to the center of the arena. "I am a historian," he said. "I study the past to understand the present. And one thing I have learned is that morality is not simple. It is not clean. It is not binary. He gestured at the evidence. Queen Zereth killed 15,000 people. That is a fact. That is blood on her hands. She will carry that weight for the rest of her life. But she did it to prevent a war that would have killed millions. She did it to protect a chance at peace. He looked up at the judges. On Earth, we have a concept called the trolley problem, a thought experiment. A train is heading toward 5 people tied to the tracks. You can pull a lever and divert it to a different track, but there is one person tied to that track. Do you pull the lever? Do you kill one to save 5? Or do you do nothing and let 5 die? Philosophers have argued about this for centuries, Marcus continued. There is no right answer. But Queen Zereth did not have centuries to debate. She had days, maybe hours. She pulled the lever. She made the terrible choice that no one should have to make. He turned to face the crowd. I am not saying she is innocent. I am not saying what she did was right. I am saying that she is not the monster you thought she was. She is a leader who made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. And maybe, just maybe, that deserves something other than execution. The arena was quiet. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat. Finally, Zereth spoke. Dr. Webb is more generous than I deserve. I do not ask for forgiveness. I ask only for the chance to finish the work I started. Let me make peace with the crash. Let me prove that those 15,000 did not die for nothing. Then, if you still wish to punish me, I will accept your judgment. The head judge looked at his fellow judges. They conferred in whispers for a long time. Very well, the judge finally said. Queen Zereth, you are acquitted of the charges of unprovoked war crimes. However, you will remain under council supervision while you complete your peace negotiations. We will monitor the process. And when peace is achieved, or if it fails, we will reconvene to determine if further action is necessary. He looked at Marcus. As for you, Dr. Webb, you have shown us the value of the human perspective. You have reminded us that wisdom is not the same as data, and truth is not the same as facts. The council thanks you. Marcus just nodded. He felt exhausted suddenly. All the adrenaline was draining away, leaving him shaky and tired. But as he looked at Queen Zereth, at the hope in her eyes, he knew he had done the right thing. Sometimes one person stepping forward was all it took to change the world. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every major network was covering the story. Human saves alien queen. Earth scholar exposes galactic conspiracy. The trial that changed everything. Marcus tried to avoid the attention, but it was impossible. As he left the arena with a security escort, reporters from a dozen species swarmed him. Cameras flashed. Translators shouted questions in languages he did not understand. Dr. Webb, how did you know the evidence was false? Dr. Webb, is it true you risked Earth's diplomatic status? Dr. Webb, what made you defend the Queen? He pushed through them without answering. His head was spinning. All he wanted was to go back to his hotel and sleep for about 16 hours. But when he finally reached his room, he found someone waiting for him. Queen Zereth sat in his small chair, looking oddly out of place in the modest human accommodation. Her guards stood outside. She had come alone. Your Majesty, Marcus said, surprised. I didn't expect. Sit, she said, gesturing to the bed. We need to talk. Marcus sat. Up close, without the arena and the crowds, Zereth looked different. More real. He could see the scars on her scales, the weight of years in her eyes. Why did you do it? She asked. I told you. I saw the pattern. The evidence was too perfect, and that made it suspicious. No, Zereth said. That is how you knew something was wrong. I'm asking why you cared. Why would a human risk everything for a Valkyrie queen? We are nothing to you. Your people barely know we exist." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "When I was young," he finally said, "I watched my father go to prison for a crime he did not commit. False evidence. Manufactured by his business partner who wanted to steal his company. My father spent 5 years in prison before the truth came out." He looked at his hands. "I became a historian because I wanted to understand how truth gets lost. How lies become history. When I saw you standing there, alone, with everyone against you, I saw my father. And I could not just sit there and do nothing." Zirath was quiet. Then she did something unexpected. She bowed her head to him, a gesture of deep respect among her people. "You have given me a chance to save my empire," she said. "But the peace talks will not be easy. The hardliners are exposed now, but they still have supporters. The Kresh peace faction is weak. One wrong move and everything will collapse. What will you do?" Marcus asked. "I will do what I should have done years ago. I will make the negotiations public. No more secrets. Let both our people see what we are trying to build. Let them choose peace or war for themselves." She stood. "And I want you there. As an observer. As a witness. Your people are neutral. Your voice carries weight now. Will you help me finish this?" Marcus wanted to say no. He wanted to go home, back to his quiet life digging through ancient ruins. But he looked at Zirath and saw the same thing he had seen in the arena. A leader trying to do the right thing in a universe that made it nearly impossible. "Yes," he said. "I'll help." The peace summit was held on a neutral station 3 weeks later. The Velkari delegation filled one side of the massive conference room. The Kresh delegation filled the other. In between, sitting at a small table, was Marcus and a handful of other neutral observers. The first day was a disaster. Old grudges surfaced immediately. Accusations flew back and forth. A Kresh commander accused the Velkari of dishonoring their dead. A Velkari general called the Kresh cowards. Twice, delegates walked out. Twice, Zirath convinced them to return. Marcus watched and took notes. He had studied enough dead civilizations to recognize the pattern. This was how peace talks failed. Both sides wanted peace in theory, but neither wanted to be the first to show weakness. On the second day, Marcus did something he had not planned. During a break, he stood up. "May I say something?" he asked. Everyone looked at him. The human observer who had saved the queen. They were curious. "I have been listening for 2 days," Marcus said. "And I keep hearing the same thing from both sides. You all say you want peace. But what you really want is victory. You want the other side to admit they were wrong. To apologize. To surrender." The room was silent. A few delegates looked angry. "But here is what I know from studying history," Marcus continued. "Peace never comes from victory. It comes from exhaustion. It comes from both sides being tired of war and willing to accept something less than perfect." He walked to the center of the room. "The Velkari say the Kresh are honorless. The Kresh say the Velkari are violent. And you know what? You are both right. And both wrong. You are not enemies because you are different. You are enemies because you are too similar. You both value strength. You both refuse to show weakness. You both would rather die than lose face." A Kresh delegate stood. "You insult us, human." "No," Marcus said. "I am trying to save you. Both of you. Because if these talks fail, you will go back to war. And eventually, one side will win. But the cost will be so high that the victory will be meaningless. Your civilizations will be crippled. Your cultures will be scars. And in 1,000 years, people like me will study your ruins and wonder why you could not just stop fighting." He looked at Zirath, then at the Kresh lead negotiator. "You do not have to love each other. You do not even have to like each other. You just have to decide that your children's future is more important than your pride." The room was quiet. Then, surprisingly, the Kresh lead negotiator laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. "The human speaks truth," she said. "Painful truth, but truth nonetheless. We have been dancing around the real issue. Both sides are afraid to compromise because we think it will make us look weak." Zirith nodded slowly. "Then perhaps we should both show weakness together at the same time, so neither side loses more face than the other." And just like that, the tone of the negotiations changed. It was not easy. It was not quick. But slowly, carefully, both sides began to work together instead of against each other. Marcus watched it happen and felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. 2 months later, the peace treaty was ready. Both sides had given up things they thought were essential. The Valkyrie agreed to demilitarize 3 border systems. The Kresh agreed to pay reparations for past attacks. Both sides agreed to join economic zones and cultural exchanges. It was not perfect. Both sides had extremists who opposed it, but the majority wanted peace. They were tired of war. The signing ceremony was held on Earth at the United Nations building. It was symbolic. Earth had brokered the final negotiations. The human who had saved a queen had helped save 2 civilizations. Marcus stood in the back of the room as Zirith and the Kresh Primers signed the treaty. Cameras from across the galaxy captured the moment. This would be in the history books for centuries. After the ceremony, Zirith found Marcus again. "I have something for you," she said. She held out a data chip. "This contains full citizenship in the Volcari Empire and a title. You are now Lord Marcus Webb, Duke of the Borderlands." Marcus stared at the chip. I cannot accept this. I am just a scholar." "You are the human who taught us to question our certainty," Zirith said. "The human who reminded us that wisdom and data are not the same thing. You changed the course of history. Accept the honor." Marcus took the chip with shaking hands. "Thank you, Your Majesty." "No," Zirith said. "Thank you, Marcus Webb, for stepping forward when no one else would." As she walked away, Marcus looked around the room. The Valkyrie and Kresh delegates were mingling now, talking peacefully. Earth diplomats were making connections with species that had barely noticed humanity before. Everything had changed, and it had started with one person refusing to stay silent. One person who saw something wrong and decided to act. One human who proved that sometimes the smallest voices could echo the loudest. 6 months after the peace treaty was signed, Marcus Webb returned to his old life. Or tried to. It was harder than he expected. He went back to his work studying dead civilizations, traveling to remote dig sites and dusty archives. But now, everywhere he went, people recognized him. The human who saved the queen. The man who brokered peace between ancient enemies. Students asked for his autograph. Scientists wanted his opinion on everything. Earth's government kept trying to recruit him for diplomatic missions. He turned down most of it. He was a historian, not a politician. He liked the quiet work of piecing together the past, not the chaos of shaping the future, but some things he could not turn down. The Galactic Council had reformed their entire legal system based on his testimony. They now required human-style cross-examination. They trained judges to question evidence instead of accepting it automatically. They even created a new position, Historical Context Advisor. And they wanted Marcus to train the first group of advisors. Earth's status in the galaxy had changed completely. Before the trial, humans were barely noticed. Now, every major species wanted to establish formal relations. Human cognitive abilities became valuable. Corporations hired human analysts. Governments employed human investigators. Universities created exchange programs. It was not all positive. Some species resented humanity's sudden rise. They called humans manipulative, paranoid, suspicious. They said humans saw conspiracies everywhere. Marcus tried to explain that it was not paranoia when you had been proven right. But he understood their concern. Humans did question everything. It was part of their nature. Thousands of years of being tricked, deceived, and betrayed by their own kind had made them wary. One day, Marcus received a message from Queen Zereth. She was coming to Earth for a state visit. She wanted to see him. They met in a small cafe in New York City. Zereth insisted on going somewhere normal, away from the cameras and the official ceremonies. Her security team was not happy about it, but she insisted. "This is strange," she said, looking around at the humans going about their daily lives. "On my world, a queen cannot walk among her people like this." "On Earth, we do not have many queens anymore," Marcus said. "We decided a few centuries ago that we preferred to choose our leaders. It does not always work well, but we keep trying." Zereth sipped her coffee. Her people could drink it, though they found it bitter. "The peace is holding," she said. "Trade between our empire and the crash is growing. We have opened 3 joint research facilities. Cultural exchanges are popular with the younger generation." "But," Marcus said, hearing the unspoken concern, "but the old generation is not happy. They remember the wars. They lost family, friends. They think we betrayed our dead by making peace with the enemy." She set down her cup. "There have been protests. Some violence. Nothing that threatens the treaty, but enough to worry me." "Change is always hard," Marcus said, "especially when it challenges everything people believed. Give it time. The younger generation who grew up with peace will replace the older generation who knew only war." "How long did it take on Earth?" Zereth asked. Marcus thought about it. "We are still working on it. We still have wars. Still have people who hate each other for old reasons. But we are better than we were. That is all we can ask." Zereth smiled, a strange expression on her reptilian face. "You humans are odd creatures. You have seen the worst of yourselves, yet you remain hopeful." "How?" "Because we have also seen the best of ourselves," Marcus said. "We know what we are capable of, both good and bad. And we keep choosing to try for the good, even when it is hard." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the city move around them. "I have been thinking," Zereth said finally, "about what you did for me. You risked everything on a hunch, on a feeling. Your own people could have punished you for it." "They thought about it," Marcus admitted. "Earth's government was not happy that I acted without authorization. But by the time they could do anything about it, I was too famous. Punishing me would have looked bad." "Still," Zereth said, "it was a risk. And I never properly asked you why you took it. You told me about your father, but I think there is more." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "When I study dead civilizations," he said slowly, "I always find the same pattern. They did not fall because of external enemies. They fell because they stopped questioning themselves. They became certain they were right, and that certainty made them blind to the truth." He looked at her. "When I saw you in that arena, I saw a civilization on the edge of that same mistake. The council was certain of your guilt. The evidence was perfect. Everyone agreed. And that certainty made them dangerous. Someone had to question it. Someone had to doubt. And you decided it had to be you?" "I was the only one who saw it," Marcus said simply. "What else could I do?" Zereth reached across the table and placed her clawed hand over his. It was a gesture of deep friendship among her people. "You saved more than just my life that day, Marcus Webb. You saved the idea that truth matters more than consensus. That one voice can change the world." A year after the peace treaty, Marcus was invited to the first anniversary celebration. It was held at the same station where the negotiations had taken place. Both Valkyrie and Kresh leaders were there, along with representatives from hundreds of other species. Marcus gave a short speech. He was still not comfortable with public speaking, but he had gotten better at it. "I am just a historian," he said to the assembled crowd. "I study the past so we can learn from it. And the past teaches us many things. It teaches us that peace is fragile, that trust is hard to build and easy to break, that the path from war to friendship is long and difficult." He paused. "But it also teaches us that change is possible, that enemies can become allies. That courage is not about being unafraid, but about acting despite fear." 1 year ago, 2 civilizations took a chance on peace. They chose hope over hate. They chose the future over the past. They looked at Zirath and the Kresh Premier, standing side by side. And they succeeded. Not because it was easy. Not because everyone agreed. But because enough people decided it was worth trying. The applause was thunderous. Marcus stepped back from the podium, relieved it was over. Later, as the celebration continued, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the station, looking out at the stars. So many worlds out there. So many civilizations. So much history waiting to be discovered. "Dr. Webb?" He turned. A young Valkyrie female approached him nervously. She wore the insignia of a student. "I just wanted to thank you," she said. "I am part of the first generation growing up with peace. Because of what you did, I can pursue my studies without fear of being drafted. I can have friends among the Kresh. I can imagine a future that my parents never could." Marcus felt his throat tighten with emotion. "You are welcome. But the real credit goes to people like Queen Zirath and the Kresh Premier. They did the hard work of making peace. But you gave them the chance," the student said. "You stepped forward when no one else would. You believed in truth even when it was unpopular. That matters." After she left, Marcus thought about her words. He had spent his whole life studying the past. But maybe the past was only valuable if it helped build a better future. His communicator buzzed. Another message from Earth's government. Another diplomatic crisis that they wanted his help with. Marcus sighed. He could ignore it. Go back to his quiet work with dead civilizations. But he knew he would not. Because someone had to question. Someone had to doubt. Someone had to stand up and say, "Wait. Let us look at this more carefully." And if that someone happened to be a middle-aged human scholar who just wanted to study ancient ruins, well, the universe had a sense of humor. He looked out at the stars one more time, then turned and headed back to the celebration. There was work to do. There were truths to find. There were voices that needed to be heard. Dot and Marcus Webb. The human who had stepped forward from the crowd when it mattered most, was ready to keep stepping forward for as long as he was needed, because that was what humans did. They questioned. They doubted. They saw patterns. And when everyone else was certain, when the evidence seemed perfect, when the consensus was complete, humans asked the most dangerous question of all. But what if we are wrong? That question had saved a queen. It had ended a war. It had changed the galaxy. Dot, and it would keep changing things, one question at a time, for as long as humans existed. The story spread across the galaxy, told in 1,000 languages on 1,000 worlds. The tale of the alien queen who was about to be defeated until a human stepped forward from the crowd. Dot, it became a legend. A reminder. A promise. That truth was worth fighting for. That justice was worth risking everything. That one person could make a difference. And that sometimes, the smallest species in the galaxy could teach the biggest lessons of all.